What's going on, guys? Steve Blaze coming back with another review, this time of Lake Bells in a World. Sorry, I know I've been absent from YouTube for a while. It's, I think, the second or third week I haven't made a video. Sorry for the delay. I actually saw it in a world. Excuse me, I saw it, I think about a couple weeks ago. I'm not totally sure. Actually, I've been so busy lately. You know, I'm trying to get my schedule readjusted for school and everything. I'm just trying to get everything back on track. So it's been very hard just trying to make sure everything's in line. I got reviews of this, Insidious Chapter 2, Don John, and Prisoners coming. So this review will be of Lake Bells in a World. And you know what? I'll probably follow it up right now in the same video and just do, for convenience sake, a review of James Wan's Insidious Chapter 2. So let's get into it. Anyway, as far as In a World goes, a lot of people probably don't know what this movie is, and if they do, they probably haven't seen it. It just came out. It got a little bit of a wider release. I don't think it's in too many theaters anymore, but I think you can still check it out. It's coming to DVD, I believe, in December. What it's basically about, though, is In a World's got a very unique premise, one of the most unique premises of the year, in my opinion, and it's about Lake Bell, who is an aspiring voiceover actress, okay? She, and everybody in the industry, it's a very closed business. There's only a few certain people they go to for this, one of whom was Don LaFontaine, who was actually a real voiceover artist, okay? And he died a few years ago. He's responsible for the voices, for the voiceovers in a lot of his movies, or in a lot of movies, just very mainstream films. And the title gets its name from, like, the In a World, the voiceover that comes before a lot of trailers. Even though, like, recently I can't find any trailers that say that. I mean, it had to become a cliche in some regard, but I don't know of any trailers. Only a Goodfellas that I know have that, like, In a World, you know, where, and it's all that, you know what I'm talking about. It's a cliche that everybody knows, but I think people have a hard time trying to figure out where it came from. But anyway, though, what it's basically about, though, is it's Lake Bell is an aspiring voiceover artist, and her father is really big in the industry, and he tells her that it's like that Hollywood has always been a very male-driven business, okay, and that women have always been kind of like the lesser have, or they've just kind of been shunned altogether. So having a female voiceover artist is actually something that he says Hollywood isn't ready for. So, but Lake Bell is very ambitious when it comes to this, so she tries to, you know, take numerous projects just to try and get her voice heard and to try and compete with the greats. And honestly, for a movie about, like, this kind of, like, a typical, like, not like really a typical topic, but I mean, as far as, like, you know, competition goes and for women trying to prove their self-worth, this is a surprisingly effective movie. For many reasons, too, because it shows, like, I think that's starting to become, like, an unintentional cliche now, is showing women as strong and very powerful, because they, like, if you take the recent Hunger Games is an example, you know, we had a discussion about this in my film studies class. If you take the recent Hunger Games movie, okay, and you say that Katniss is a strong woman, that's where the traits kind of stop, you know what I mean? She doesn't have really any more traits than that. Whereas Lake Bell, though, is like, you can tell she's strong, but the movie doesn't need to make an emphasis on that. She's way more driven in the regard of, like, trying to succeed in a complicated business. She's doing it for the love of not only the industry, but just like the voiceover and the power that goes into these voiceovers and everything. She's doing it for that. And the movie doesn't have to constantly remind us that she's doing it because she's strong, which I think was one of the flaws of the Hunger Games. But anyway, though, the movie, The Hunger Games. But anyway, though, this is a very good movie, I thought. I liked it for the fact that it really shows, like, the power of a voice, and how, like, even if we don't really think of it then, how, like, you know, voiceovers have sort of an effect on us, whether it's a mental effect, whether it's a female or male speaking. I think we kind of get this, like, this strange kind of, like, consumption of power in a way when we hear these voices used to effect. And I also really enjoy Lake Bell, who I saw in A Good Old-Fashioned Orgy. It's a movie. And that was a really good movie. I thought it was a surprisingly funny movie. But I think now that this is her directorial debut and her writing debut, so I think that this is going to be, like, sort of an indicator of where she's going to go. And I'm honestly anticipating her next project. I really enjoyed In a World. There's not a whole ton to say about it. It's one of those movies, too, that doesn't, like, there's like a whole laundry list of things to say afterwards. It's a little quirky, which is what I like about it. There's a lot of characters, too, which keeps it interesting. And I love the voiceover effect that they use a lot of in the movie. So, like I said, it's worth a watch. I'd probably give it a 3 out of 4 stars. The review's on Influx Magazine right now. The other film I'll review right now is Insidious Chapter 2. And sorry, guys. I'm sorry again. about why I haven't been making videos. It's been a very, not only just a rough time, but it's also been a simultaneously a rough time, but a very exciting time. I just was nominated and won Homecoming King at my high school. I'll probably make a separate video talking about that and the experiences that went into that. But yeah, it's not even October. My senior year in high school is already getting to be very, very eventful. Like I said, I'll probably make a separate video talking about that. But I mean, anyway, though, Insidious Chapter 2, okay? Now, the original Insidious, I kind of compare to the movie Taken in a way, okay? Taken was a movie that came out in January of 2008, 2010, I think. One of those years, I can't even remember. I think 2008. I'm blank. I think 2008, though. But I mean, anyway, it was one of those movies that came out, and it really, I don't think the studios expected it to be too much, like with Insidious. I don't think the studios really expected Insidious to take off the way it did. But Insidious really was one of the few horror movies that spread from word of mouth that got better, okay? And I think James Wan, the director, who also made The Conjuring back in July, I think his movies have really mastered this as far as movies that go like I might see it, and then like when they really do well the first weekend, people say like, oh, you got to see this and everything, and they really get good reviews, then they take off, and I think and they become bigger horror film successes. So this year has been a huge success for horror movies, okay? Excuse me, mainly for James Wan though, who's already made 2 hits with Insidious and Conjuring financially. But Insidious Chapter 2, it's basically we return to the Warren family and how they're being haunted by these paranormal beings, okay? Much of the cast returns. Patrick Wilson plays the father of the family who constantly believes that there's nothing wrong and that it's in everybody's heads and that they just need to stay calm. And two paranormal investigators try to investigate all this and see what's going on. Even if they move to another house, the paranormal entities still follow them. So, like, I have a friend of mine that hates this movie so much. He loathed it. And to be fair, I think that this movie isn't totally necessary, and it makes me nervous because I'm totally expecting Conjuring 2 to happen, even though I don't want it to happen, because, I mean, you can't even count how many horror movies have been ruined by an unnecessary sequel. But as far as this one goes, so I like this one. I liked this one for about a good hour, and then it started to get a little long, and then I think it started to get into like chapter 3 a little bit, and I think by the end it becomes a bit too convoluted for its own good, and it becomes a bit harder to follow because there's just so much stuff going on. Whereas the original Insidious was a lot more of a reserved horror movie, which is why I think people liked that. I think people liked that without even knowing really what it was, or the stylistic attribute, what it was, or what it really did. I think people like the reserve plotting more, but this one really just got to a lot of the action, and there was a lot of jump scares in the movie, a lot of which were ineffective, for me at least. Like I say, I've seen so many of these horror movies. Like, I mean, I have a lot of friends that still get scared by a lot of these horror movies, and it's like when you're me too. I was never really petrified of horror movies. When I was younger, I really got kind of scared, like Final Destination 2, when I first saw that, when it first came out. I was really terrified of that. But I mean, that's like, I think typical for somebody, a young kid, to be terrified by that, because it's not like there's a monster or anything. Nothing is killing those people. It's just these random forces, and you're starting to think like, I remember that made me a lot more aware as a kid when I first saw those movies, because, there's like little things turning and little, little things like knocking over, triggering something else, like a Rube Goldberg machine, where the ending is you dying. So I remember really being a lot more aware of my surroundings after seeing those movies. I'll write a blog probably one day about how those movies had like a weird mental effect on me, but because I saw all those Final Destination movies at a very young age. Like, I think I saw the first one was like 7. So I got really paranoid, and that's why I'm so screwed up now. But I mean, anyway, Insidious Chapter 2, though, it does get a little long. It does get a little bit monotonous with the plot scares. But honestly, I didn't love this. I didn't love the movie, and I didn't hate the movie, okay? I thought it was fine. It's good September fare. I think it would have fared a little bit better in early October. I think it's financial. I think it's still financial prospects would have been about the same, whether or not it came out in, early September, early October. Because, I mean, if you release it right at the end of October, that's a bad move. Because if you release it at the end of October, then people go and rush that weekend because it's Halloween weekend. Then nobody goes to see it because November, it's starting to get into Thanksgiving. You're already getting the holidays out there. So If anything, I think it could have came out at the beginning of October, really set the mood. But anyway, for a good start to fall, it's not a bad movie. Gonna give it 2.5 out of 4 stars. It's entertaining to say the least. I didn't love the movie, but I thought some of the effects that it had were good. I just wish it would have taken a stance similar and more